Hello guys and welcome to today's tier list. I'm going to be ranking every single school subject and I've done my GCSEs, my A-levels, pretty much all of school, so hopefully I'm qualified to give this a good go. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. Hope you enjoy. Okay, starting off we have chemistry. Now, I think out of the sciences, it's right in the middle. It's an average science, but I think it's a decent subject. You know, you're doing practicals, it's got some interesting bits, you know, it's not a boring subject. It's a bit hard at times, but like throughout school, it's always been, you know, an alright one to see. So we'll go B tier for chemistry. Oh god, I haven't taken German. Right. Okay, we're adding a tier list for stuff I've not done. Okay, French. I think this out of the languages, because I've seen German, it looks hard. But French is one of the easier languages in my opinion. It's not like, if you're an English speaker, there's a lot of cognates in it, and I think it's one of the easiest like second languages to pick up. But I'm not saying it's easy though, so I'm gonna go C tier. I'm gonna go D tier actually, because it's not the most enjoyable subject, you know, because like it's quite low picked, especially for A levels and stuff. But throughout school, it's always just been like a bit of a subject, you know, not amazing. So we'll go D tier. Okay, Italian, Latin. I have no idea. Spanish, I did do on Duolingo for a bit, but not in school, so I can't rank that. So there we go. Okay, economics. Now I think this is a bang average subject. You know, I've taken it for GCSE and A level, and you know, it's a bit of a boring subject. It has some interesting bits, but there's a lot of diagrams, a lot of long writing. It's not something that's going to be like really intriguing unless you just love that sort of stuff. So I'm gonna go C tier for economics. I think it's pretty average. Literature. This is a bit of a hard one because it's really hit or miss depending on what lesson you got, you know. Sometimes if your teacher's reading a book, brilliant. If you're reading a book, brilliant. But if you're doing poetry or a book analysis and you're annotating and you're writing like 17 paragraphs on like point evidence explain, it's not good. So I'm chucking that in E because it's too inconsistent, and like I get a lot of people like that subject, but it's not for me. So yeah, but moving on the other hand, English language, I'm giving that an A tier. I think it's a really chill subject, you know, you're doing like creative writing, spelling, techniques, it's decent, you know. I had a good class and a good teacher, so that's probably a big factor, but to be honest, the exam, it was pretty much logic, it's just logic and common sense, you don't really have to revise too much for it. So yeah, it was quite a chill year with that, yeah, so I'm going A tier. Okay, history. I think this is quite a good subject. Content-wise, it's definitely one of the most interesting, you know. It's got like, interesting things about wars and kings and all sorts of stuff. But again, some of the actual work bit can be a bit annoying, you know. You have got long writing, you have got sometimes boring teachers. But as far as subjects go, I think it could be A tier. You know, I'll reevaluate at the end, but I'm going to go A for now because I think that's definitely got potential, you know, content-wise to be high, especially if you actually like history a lot as well. Okay, the next science we have biology. I think this is the worst out of the three, but I don't think it deserves to go below because I still think it's a decent science, you know. You do good practicals in it. The body's something interesting to study, you know, and you know, if you see my shorts, I'll make a few on those. And yeah, no, I think it deserves to be on B with chemistry. I think it's almost as good, but a little bit worse. Geography. It's an okay subject, you know. I think a lot of people go into it thinking like, yeah, I'm going to learn about countries and landmarks, and then you end up learning about sweatshops and sedimentary rocks, and then you're a bit disappointed. So it's got a letdown rate, you know. So I'm going to go C because it could be worse. I don't think it's as bad as these two, but it's a bit of an average subject, you know. I don't know what classical civilization is, to be honest. So we'll shove that down there. Okay, art. Now this one I think massively depends on when you're taking it. Year 7, 8, 9, brilliant. Art is like top tier subject, you know. You can just sort of piss about a lesson. Unless you're good, then like, well, even if you're not good, you know, teachers just do the work for you. But if you're taking it GCSE and especially A level, you have like long exams, there's a lot of pressure, and you have to be like really good at it. Like I think like if I were to take art, like there's not a chance I would do well. So for that, I'm going to go C tier because it's in the middle. It just depends on when you're studying it. But overall, I guess it balances out. Okay, I think this could be our first S tier. DT, I don't know if it's a controversial one, but I think product design is a brilliant subject, to be honest. You're doing computer work, you're using machines, you're sanding, you got your mates in your class, hopefully. It's just like it's a nice atmosphere, when you're all like making a project, and like project work in general is normally quite fun. So I'm gonna go, that's our first S tier. We're going DT. Okay, business. I think it's relatively similar to economics. From what I've heard, people call it a BTEC. No offense to anyone who takes business, but I think it's just a bit easier in that sense. But I'm guessing it's not the most interesting as well. Business and economics, they do have interesting topics, but I think it's nothing too special. So I think it's an average subject. We'll go C for that as well. I'm doing engineering actually for uni, but not in school so far, so we'll leave that one out. Food tech, S, because when you're growing up in school and you're going into your food tech lessons, it's a bit of a piss take. They're just so easy and fun. You're literally just making food, and then you obviously have the odd nutritional lesson and whatnot. But I think overall, it's like a good subject. Like if you see food tech on your timetable, you're not really dreading that unless you're absolutely useless at cooking. But I think that's a decent S tier. I think it's good fun. Media studies. I'm not too sure about this because this is one of the ones I have like very little knowledge on. But I think again it's one of those ones which is pretty easy, and I think the coursework's kind of fun. So I know we got a lot in C tier, but I'm gonna go average for now because it's a hard one to place, to be honest, for me at least. Okay, PE. This is another no-brainer S tier. I think, well, PE, like, who wouldn't rather do sport instead of sit in a classroom, to be honest? Football, basketball, and not so much rugby, but, it's cricket, whatever you're doing, it's better than being inside. So I think PE is just a, great S tier, to be honest. Even with, like, gymnastics and athletics, it's just good fun. Nice way to get out the classroom. S tier for me. Psychology, I think that's actually a really interesting subject, to be honest. I don't know if it's everyone's thing, so I'm gonna go either B or A because I don't think it's too hard. I'll tell you what, I'm dropping history down to B actually, and I'm moving chemistry up to A. But anyway, psychology, I'm gonna go B tier because I think it's not an easy subject, but it's not super hard, but it does have its interesting bits from what I've seen, And so I it's just my estimation. I'll give it a B tier. Okay, this could be controversial, but I'm a physics guy, I love physics. That's an easy S tier for me. I know it's not everyone's thing, and like sometimes I do regret that decision when I'm doing like loads of these calculations and whatnot. It is a hard subject, but it does have some interesting topics, and as like a general field and content-wise, I think it's a good subject. So that's an S tier for me. Maybe lower than the others, but it's definitely an enjoyable subject, and I think it's the best science. Okay, I don't even know if I have to say much about this. This is an easy F tier for me. Further maths is a horrible subject. I've seen the papers, I've seen the work, and I've spoken to people about it, and it's not fun. Unless you're like a proper maths freak, a lot of people say this is not a great subject to take. Obviously, it was a good subject to take for uni. It's probably one of the best actually, but if you want to have a nice life, maybe not. So I'm going an F for that. Okay, maths is A tier. It's quite a jump from further, but it's just doable maths. And like throughout all the years, I just think it's like a consistent subject. The teachers are normally decent. The content's alright, and like it's they're fun lessons. I think maths is it's a widely taken subject, and I think a lot of people quite like it. So I think that's an A tier. Okay, religious studies. This is an interesting one because we didn't actually do exams for this, so I actually thought the lessons were quite chill. I'm gonna go B tier. They had some interesting topics, it was quite relaxed lessons. The teachers were good. So yeah, in my opinion, it's a B tier, just sort of a usual subject. It's not too hard, and yeah, had some interesting bits. Now music, again, this ranges for a lot of people, but I'm gonna go A because especially in the lower years, it's quite nice, It's like even if you didn't play, like I do piano, but even if you don't play music, just whacking a glockenspiel or banging the drums, it's better than doing classwork, isn't it? You know, and there wasn't really much pressure on it in the early years. I didn't do it for later ones, but so I wouldn't know. But from my experience, I'm putting that in A. Up next, what drama? I have a bit of a weird story about drama. I never took it, but I helped out a mate with it, who did take drama. So and it was actually okay. So I'm gonna go C tier because the actual acting was it was kind of fun, to be honest. But I'm not sure what the content's like. And apparently, he said there's loads of techniques you gotta jam in there. So I feel like it sounds better than it actually would be. So I think it will go average for that. Okay, dance. I don't know. We never had a dance class, but like, I don't know where to put that, to be honest. I think I'll just slap it in D because it would be okay, I guess, you know. But no, I haven't really had much experience with a dance class, to be honest. But yeah, okay. Computer science. I did this for GCSE. It's an okay subject, but it's just not great. It's hard, and like unless you're really into your coding and your website making and whatnot, it's not the best subject because it was useful for a bit and I got through it, but it wasn't the most enjoyable. But I had a teacher who basically gave us all that NEA work for free because he left it on the whiteboard and didn't care. But yeah, so we'll take that, but it's still a D tier for me. And then final one, we have ICT. It's sort of similar, but like it's less coding and more websites and I think animating as well. So maybe it's better, but I'm not too sure, to be honest. I'm gonna go D for now. And it's looking quite like a nicely laid out tier list. Let me see if there's anything I'd change. I'll tell you what. I think I'm actually quite happy with that, to be honest. Maybe I might drop English language down to B actually, because it's not. It was good, but I don't know if it's top tier. But that's looking good to me. So there you have it. That is my final, possibly reevaluated tier list at some point. Maybe I'll do a part 2. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. And if there's any more tier lists you want me to do, let me know down in the comments below, or any videos in general. And yeah, if you made this far, thank you so much for watching. And yeah, I hope you have a great day.